to my original advice, it's really that you should try and enjoy every stage and work, don't be afraid. And then in conclusion, I just wanted to mention some great pieces of advice that have helped me along the way. So the first three come from my mom, who used to say that the world doesn't need another maladjusted genius, which always stuck to me. She wanted us to be, have our feet on the ground, and I try and raise my children the same way, keep them in line. And she also used to say that she always used to tell us there'd be someone smarter than we are and younger, and the sooner that we realize that and accepted it, the happier we would be. And I appreciated that, and I also knew when I stepped out of the workforce and I walked away from great, high-paying, glamorous jobs, I was making way for someone else to have the opportunity, and that was great, and I didn't have a problem with that. She also said that you should not take a job with people who wouldn't take the time to attend your funeral. And so you do have to, watch out the people that you're working with, because there are busy people out there, There's funerals come out and people just say, and then I also like the advice from Jimmy Stewart, who's the class of '32 from Princeton, and the film Harvey. He played this very kind gentleman, Elwood P. Dowd, and walked around with this imaginary 6'3" white rabbit named Harvey, and he always had the time to talk to people. And he would say, at one point he was talking to a psychiatrist, and he tells him about his mother, and he says, "My mother used to say, Elwood, in this world you have to be oh so smart or oh so pleasant." Well, he goes on to say, "I spent the first part of my life, for years I was smart, and I recommend pleasant." And you may quote me. As a Princeton grad, he can appreciate that. He really spent the first 30 years of his life trying to be smart, and then he realized, pleasant was good. Also, I wanted to mention that when I started at my law firm, I was 2 months into the job. We got back from Thanksgiving, and my boss, who ran the group, had a heart attack at work. So if there's ever a wake-up call, it's watching your boss have a heart attack at work. He was a great man, and he survived the heart attack. Just a terrific lawyer to work for. He was very wise, loved his family, and fortunately had the heart attack at the office on a Monday that he could get to the hospital, and he survived it. And afterwards, my dad and I were talking to him. He came back to work pretty quickly, like most lawyers. Afterwards, they want to get back in there. And he was talking to my dad, and we thought he'd come back a little too quickly, and he said, "Well, I guess I did find out that I was replaceable at work." And my dad said, "Maybe, but the place where you're really not replaceable is in your family. At work, and that's the nature of a law firm, certainly in any firm, is you can fill in the gaps, but in your family, you leave a big hole, and that's something that to always to remember again in your priorities, because somebody can always come behind you at work and do your job." And then the last thing I brought, and I was showing the panelists beforehand, is this article by P.J. O'Rourke from Forbes magazine in 1999 that I've carried around this copy, although now it's available on the internet, but it's called Quid Pro Quo, and he talks about, it's a very funny article about the applicability of raising young children to managing your boss at work, and how that, if you can make it, he says, if you can negotiate with a 2-year-old, you can manage your boss. And it is my view that there are a lot of lessons that are applicable that I'm learning from raising children and working with them, that I do feel strongly that if you can potty train a kid, you can do just about anything. So I think there are a lot of lessons to learn, and I think that you become a better professional from having a child, and I think you're also, there's plenty from your professional life in terms of time management that I know I bring to the table when I'm, getting the kids off to school or getting a meal to the table. There's
all join me in a round of applause. I think that you have it all in relation to the sort of modern notion of having it all, being at the top of your career, and then also being very prominent in your family. And then when sacrifices were made, how did you figure out how to balance the two? Where did you turn when you had to make these sacrifices?
One at a time?
Yeah, sure.
You know, I have gone through in my career, and as I said, tried to enjoy each stage. And when I didn't have children, and my husband and I are both attorneys, you know, we were very go-go attorneys. And then I worked full-time for a while after my first child was born. I was at the Securities and Exchange Commission, and there was a lot going on. I found, and I think other friends of mine have found, it's very hard to have a high-powered career and be able to devote that much time to your family. You kind of go a little crazy, but all of us have had to learn it. I mean, you heard on the panel, all of us, it sounds like we worked full-time for a while and tried to be full-time moms. Also, when you start out being a mom, it is a steep learning curve, as Anna has said, and it is work, because if it isn't work, you know, she wouldn't be paying someone to take care of her kids. I mean, they'd be lining up outside here. It's work. I mean, so there's a learning curve, and there's a temptation there at the beginning of, I was a good lawyer, and I wasn't a very good mother. And I had to learn to become a good mother. The temptation was there to go back to work, which I knew how to be a lawyer. I was very good at it. And but I stuck with the parenting. I have no regrets with it, and I think it's a lot of fun. As I said, very rejuvenating. So if you know, I happen to feel I do have it all by having this great, this great family, and you know, I am happy with doing my own studies and finding my own academic simulation. But so I guess it sort of depends on how you define it as having it all. If it's having a career and having a great family, I happen to see a lot of women who try and do both, and you know they manage, but you find yourself always running from one to another. Like when I was working full time, I go into the office and like Anna, I just wanted to work, but other people were just there. You know, they wanted to come and talk to me. I had work to get done while I was in the office. I didn't have time to run out and get coffee or chit chat about the Redskins. I had to work. So I think Anna's found one solution where I don't think you want to transmit the stress to your kids. That's the one thing. It's like I found if I had a deadline and I'm yelling at my kid about something, but it's really my deadline that's hanging